Today we're going to take a look at the X-Treme X-Men Omnibus Volume 1 by Chris Claremont. It has an 888 page count and the cover price of $100. Let's get into this extremely disappointing omnibus review. Here we have it, folks, the not-so-extreme X-Treme X-Men Omnibus Volume 1 by Chris Claremont. This is the direct market cover here with artwork from Salvador Larroca. And you get a little X-Treme X-Men on the spine here. You get Rogue there. Rogue is actually a good character throughout this book. You get a cover gallery on the back. Extreme challenges demand X-Treme X-Men. Except nothing is really extreme in this book, man. As you can probably tell by my sassiness in the beginning of this, man. It's not my favorite X-Men stories, but we'll get to that. So opening up the dust jacket here, on the left-hand side, you have a little bit about the story, and on the right-hand side, the creators, as usual. I will say I am a big fan of this wraparound cover. Love when they have like the bright red with the little X-Men logos and stuff in the background, and then the characters just pop so well on this. So you got the ladies on the side, Storm looking good, Rogue there. And it's a great looking cover. One of the best things about this book, to be honest, which is super unfortunate. I will say the artwork throughout this is pretty good. It's kind of different as well, which we'll get to a little bit later on. But let's check out the binding real quick. It is sewn binding, of course. The binding is pretty good, but you will get some gutter loss on pages like shown just there. You will lose a little bit of the artwork, but it's really not too bad throughout it. That part of the book, too, just bothered me reading this the whole time. I don't know what it is, my OCD or whatever, but just that little overlap of the artwork from the front cover coming in it irked me throughout this read. So you do get a table of contents here, and this book does collect Uncanny X-Men 389, X-Men 109, X-Treme X-Men 1 through 24 and Annual 2001, X-Treme X-Men Savage Land 1 through 4, X-Treme X-Men Expose 1 through 2, and material from X-Men Unlimited 36. This is, of course, written by Chris Claremont, and you're going to get a lot of the artwork throughout this book is going to be the Salvador Larroca throughout it. So, and it's kind of cool, the artwork, but we'll get to that once we get into the X-Treme X-Men. It does start out with Uncanny X-Men 389, and this is kind of like leading up to what's going to happen in the X-Treme X-Men run here. You have, was it Moira? She ended up being killed, and then you have Robert Kelly, actually, who died as well. So you have our characters attending the funerals. And then you also get a little bit of a background with some history of Professor X and Moira and their relationship when they were younger. And you also get this character, Cecil, I believe was her name, where she's dealing with like drug abuse problems, which is kind of interesting. I always like when that comes into comics because of my like sobriety and stuff like that. I always like reading about characters that are troubled and dealing with issues like drug abuse. She's been taking some sort of party drug and is kind of like, because of this and going cold turkey on these drugs that she was taking, she's like having trouble controlling her powers. And there also is throughout this a big dealing with like second mutations. So Rogue actually is like in the midst of her second mutation as well, so she's having trouble controlling her powers throughout this. So like everybody she's ever touched just kind of like pops into her at random. She is able to control, I guess, Wolverine's like bone claws though, so she can pop those out whenever and get after it, which is kind of cool. And she also has the healing factor of Wolverine too. So then it bumps into the X-Treme X-Men run here, which is like I said, it's lacking for me quite a bit, but I did enjoy interactions and the storylines that had to do with Rogue and Gambit. Gambit, of course, he's like always been one of my favorite characters, so Gambit has some pretty solid moments throughout this omnibus. He ends up joining the X-Treme X-Men down the line, and it's just the team here. So you have Storm, she's the leader, then you have Bishop, Rogue, Beast, Psylocke, Thunderbird, and Sage. So this will be your like primary group of this X-Treme X-Men from the beginning. They'll eventually add some new characters and stuff into it, and we'll actually lose some characters as well. You actually lose Beast like later down the line, which is unfortunate because Beast is a pretty dope character, man. He's also going through his second mutations as well. So he's kind of like dealing with that throughout some of these early X-Treme X-Men issues. You get introduced to this character Vargas here. He's going to be your main like villain throughout this first like story arc here. So the first story arc has to deal with these Destiny diaries, where that's a set of diaries that kind of like foretell the future or whatever, and this dude Vargas is after them, and Professor X has some dealings with as well, which is kind of funny. Like in part of the story as well, Gambit like kind of talks about it. Like, do you trust if Professor X get these books, because we already know what happened with Onslaught back in the day. Like, you recall that situation, which is kind of cool. They had a little throwback to that. But so they're looking after these books, and there's some parts actually too where like they're reading the book and they can actually see themselves reading the book in the book, because that's how good it is at foreseeing the future and stuff like that. So everybody's after these like set of diaries and stuff like that. So that'll be like your main story arc in the first little bit here, and then it goes into this Savage Land stuff here, which I think is 4 issues, which it was okay, man. This is where it'll get to like a different artwork style, because in the main X-Treme X-Men books there's no ink, which is it's kind of strange, but it's kind of cool though. I do enjoy it. Like, most of it looks pretty good, some of it looks a little sloppy and out of it, like, just, I don't know, it just doesn't, the inks just aren't there, so it doesn't hit as well as it really should. But it's a cool thing that they tried out, man, and I did enjoy most of the artwork throughout this whole run. But the Savage Land stuff is so it's kind of just like a mediocre little story where the Storm gets into this like beast mode style and is attacking everybody. Your boy Bishop gets naked as fuck, and he's just running around with like glowing shit all over his private parts and stuff like that. But it's just, you know, Savage Land story. And then it goes into this stuff where Gambit is suspected of killing this man, and Bishop just goes full on like detective mode. He's walking around with like the trench coat and shit like that, and he's trying to you know, solve this case of Gambit, you know, because they know he didn't kill this dude. I do like this cover here a lot. I think that's a dope cover. There's a lot of covers in here I'm not really too much of a fan of. You know, this whole run was kind of like, it was really tough to get through, to be honest. Like, as I was reading along with it, I couldn't tell if I was enjoying it or if I was just like making myself suffer so I could give you guys a review, pretty much. But you know, some of it is good. It gets into some sick like intergalactic battles and stuff like that later on throughout this run here. You get introduced to the character Khan, who's all involved with this. But I think that's one of the things too, that X-Men has such great villains, man. They've always just delivered when it comes to villains, and I feel like this whole run here kind of lacked villain-wise. I don't think like Khan was very good. I didn't think Vargas was really good. Nobody really like hit for me. Like, and I don't know, it's something happens to one of the main characters of the group very early in the beginning too, which is like, man, like, how are you gonna do that? You can't get rid of that character from here, man. That's one of the best people in the group here, because like I said, also this X group really isn't one of my favorites. Like, luckily Gambit gets involved, and Rogue. That's why I say their storylines are probably the best. I mean, Gambit is very Gambit throughout this. He's always fucking around, stealing shit from people and being an asshole. And Rogue, I like the way that she's kind of like suffering through her second mutations things, and her just trying to deal with her powers and all that. I mean, that's really good stuff. I wish they would have kind of like hit on that a little bit more rather than everything else. But I don't know, altogether it really is not worth picking up, especially if you're not huge into X-Men. I do not recommend it. I mean, I always pick up every X-Men omnibus that comes out, so it'll be in the collection, but I can say that I probably wouldn't ever read it again. I might not even pick up volume 2 if it does come out. We'll see. But it was just very lackluster for me, and it was much so a chore to get through. But let me know what you think about this omnibus down in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.
I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Organic Priced Books, the best place to get your omnibus and other collected editions. Super fast shipping, bulletproof packaging, and amazing customer service. Use promo code DROCK to get $2 off your purchase at organicpricebooks.com. Join the OPB family today.